You had your story about your first day of class, and you made a point to say that you have kept the class interesting. Is that still an important part of your philosophy, to keep classes interesting?
Yes, of course, because if we don't do that from the beginning of handling classes, it will become boring. And eventually your students will not, you can't get the report. And eventually what happens next is that your students will not listen. It will not believe in everything that you say. So that should be the first and the foremost that an educator should remember. It's to get the report of their students and to make the class interesting.
Okay, very good lesson that you've learned and applied there. How do you do it? Do you have any tricks that you can share with other teachers or hiring managers about how you personally have discovered the way to keep rapport and keep the class interesting?
What I normally do, especially at the first day of classes, I have this index card with me. And while these students introduce themselves, I try to take down or get some notes regarding with everything that they say about themselves. And eventually from there, perhaps my skills, which I learned from my nursing class, actually kicks in, wherein you have to understand, okay, this student doesn't want to be mentioned at some point. This student has his skills. Perhaps I can use it. She knows she can sing well. Perhaps not to make the class boring. Maybe I can say, why don't you sing a song for us? Just to make it fun, just to make the class interesting. It should not be a bored, it should not be a very dull kind of classroom or a very typical kind of classroom wherein the teacher stands in front and then all they needed to do is just to show them the subjects and everything. For me as an educator, that is not efficient, and it will not be successful. It will never be very successful when you just stood in front and just to show these students the class, the kind of subject, the typical kind of subject that they needed to understand.
That's an interesting strategy that you have, to write the names down on an index card and make little notes, especially in the beginning, so that you can understand how to treat people as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
When a student feels that they're being treated as an individual personality, I think they appreciate that. And it's unusual, I would imagine. At least in my memory, it was very unusual.
And one student is different from the other. They don't have the same personality. So being an educator, you have to understand the individual personality of your students.
Yeah, I think that's a remarkable thing. I don't think it takes that much time extra, maybe a little bit, but the payoff is so big when you have that direct connection early on. You can keep it more easily than develop it. So the rapport starts off with a bang, I would imagine, quite good. There's a bit of positive energy right away.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Well done. All right. I think that's a lesson for all educators and anyone who's doing seminars or anything else. If it's ongoing, you might as well get to learn your students' personalities. And then use them, as you say. You might find a singer who enjoys singing but doesn't find the opportunity. And you may find a moment somewhere in that class period, one of the classes.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. Very good. You taught, I think, something to me and something to all of us today. Thank you. How do you do what you do? What is the fuel that drives you? What's the motivating force that pulls you through your challenges in life? What's the reason for it? What wakes you up in the morning? The energy that you have, what is the reason for that?
I love what I do, and I'll always put my best foot forward when it comes to achieving a certain task on hand. And of course, what drives me My family is my best inspiration and fuel to succeed and overcome challenges I encounter in my daily life. And in cases where I encounter challenges, normally I reflect and look back where I went wrong and then move on and, of course, do some necessary adjustment to stay on track and to make the pace manageable.
Okay. And what would you say if I was to talk to all of the different people that were bosses of you, and if I was to ask them a question, what are the strengths of Cherrylene? What would they say as your strengths? Your teachers that were above you when you were learning, and your owner when you were employed. What would they say?
My main strengths would include my flexibility and, of course, the love for the work and the task that I have on hand. And seldom do I answer with no, but instead I always say I can try. And one more thing is that I'm very much exposed to trainings and get the skills to be competitive in any kind of work being assigned with.